Hello, students. I hope you're all doing well. And I know most of you are preparing very hard right now for the CA Foundation examination that will happen in December of 2022. So today I'm going to take you through an orientation for CA Inter November 23, which is your next level. It's the next milestone in your journey. And because CA Inter classes typically begin in the month of December, after a short break after your CA foundation exams, because the syllabus is huge, we have to complete it quickly, we need to start on time, and hence orienting yourself, with what the course looks like and knowing what the plan ahead is going to be is very, very important, right? And hence at this stage, I'm going to take this opportunity to give you a little bit of glimpse about the next course. Uh, you know, what are the subjects? How does the coaching flow? How do we begin? How do we end? So at least you have information which you can keep in mind and take an action at the right time, right? So I'm going to do a short presentation for you and let's quickly dive in. Okay, so here I am preparing for CA Intermediate November 2023. Okay, now, first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick glimpse of what the CA Inter subjects look like. Now, unlike CA Foundation, where you have just four papers, your syllabus absolutely multiplies by two because you need to do now eight papers. Okay, so it's a huge, huge syllabus to tackle in that sense. The eight papers are divided into two groups. As you can see on your screens, group one on the left has got four papers. So there's a 100-mark paper in accounting, 100-mark paper in corporate and other laws, there's a 100-mark paper in cost and management accounting and then a 100-mark paper in taxes, which has direct taxes and indirect taxes both. Now, out of these four, you have done accounting and you have done law in your CAFC, but of course, costing and taxation is absolutely new. In your second group, you again have four papers. Paper number five is advanced accounting. So instead of one paper in accounts, now you have two papers of 100 marks each in accounts. So paper five is advanced accounting. Paper six is auditing and assurance, which is again a new paper altogether. Paper seven has two parts. 7A is EIS, Enterprise Information Systems. This is basically information technology. It's technology applied to business, 50 marks. And 7B is strategic management, which is another 50 marks, summing up to 100 marks. So, of course, EIS is technology applied to business. It's new. Strategic management is on the lines of business studies. Of course, there is new content, but it's on the lines of a business study paper that you have probably done in grade 12 in your CFC, right? But of course, content is next level. And paper eight is again two parts, 8A and 8B. 8A is financial management, which is again, a new paper altogether for 60 marks. And 8B is economics for finance, 40 marks. Economics is a subject I know you all have been doing ever since grade 11. But of course, this is a lot of macroeconomics. So that's 8B, and that sums up to 100 marks. So in all, you do eight papers. But I also want to sort of bring your attention to the fact that there are not eight subjects, there are many more than eight subjects, right? So if you look at taxes, you have direct and indirect tax. If you look at paper seven, EIS is a different subject, SM is a different subject. If you look at paper eight, financial management is a different subject, and economics is a different subject. So you're doing many subjects wrapped up into eight papers, right? That's why I said the syllabus is maybe double or even a little more than that compared to CAFC, and hence the need for starting early and planning early, right? Now, moving ahead, very important for you to know that unlike CAFC, where you had two papers which are completely multiple choice with negative marking, right? And two papers which are structured, CA interstructure is slightly different. You will see multiple choice questions of 30 marks only in these four theory papers, which is paper two, that's law, paper four, that's taxation, paper six, that's auditing, and paper seven, that's EIS and SM, strategic management. So only in these four papers, which are typically theory papers, you will see 70 marks of structured answers and 30 marks of multiple choice, while the remaining four papers are full 100 marks structured. But having said that, The 30 marks MCQs in these four papers is different from what you do in your CAFC. So in your CAFC papers, you will generally have 1 mark, one MCQ, where they give you one full mark if the answer is correct and they deduct negative 0.25 if your answer is wrong. But that's not the way it happens in CA Inter. A multiple choice question could be for 1 mark, sometimes it could even be for 2 marks, all right? And there is no negative marking, right? So 30 marks are reserved for MCQs. That's all you need to know. Now, the breakup within could be a 1 marker or 2 marker, but there is no negative marking. Okay, so these 30 marks MCQs, of course, in these four theory papers, give you a lot of opportunity to score well in theory papers, right? So that's the way the structure is. Now, there is a very interesting concept, at this stage, which I want to explain to you called set off, and the reason I'm pulling this discussion off right now is a lot of students have this thought in mind. Let me get coached for one group at a time. Why should I get coached for both groups? Or why should I give both group papers? So I'm going to tell you the benefit of doing all 8 papers together. And hence you will understand why you should get coached for all the 8 papers and not group wise. And this applies not just to CA Inter, but also to CA Final. Okay. Now, what is the passing protocol firstly in any CA inter exam? Well, the passing protocol in any CA inter exam is that you need to score a minimum of 40 marks in each paper. And as an aggregate, you need to score 50%. While that passing protocol applies even in CA Foundation, it'll apply even in CA Final. Okay. So you have to score a minimum of 40, like I said, in each paper. And on an aggregate, you need to score 50%. Okay. That's the passing protocol. Now let's take one small example to show you how this works. Well, let's say if you decide to give one group at a time, hypothetically, you only gave, let's assume, group one, okay? You didn't give group two at all. So what marks would you score? Let's say you scored 16 accounts, 16 law, 16 costing, and 16 taxes. All put together, you scored 240 out of 400, which is 60%. You had not given group two at all in an attempt. Okay, you had only given group one. Now, have you scored a minimum of 40 in each? Of course, you have. Have you in an aggregate scored more than 50%? Yes, you have. You scored 60%. So obviously, this is considered to be a pass. Okay. Now let us assume you gave group two separately. You didn't give it in the same attempt. मतलब आपने let's say group one ही एक attempt में किया, उसके 6 months बाद आपने group two दिया अलग से. अब आपका ग्रुप टू का स्कोर इंडिविजुअली देखिए. यू स्कोर्ड 50 marks in advanced accounting, you scored 40 marks in auditing, 15 EISSM and 14 FM. Now you have scored a minimum of 40 in each paper. You satisfy the first condition. But as an aggregate, if you sum it up, you scored 180 out of 400, that's 45%. So that's less than 50%. So you will be considered, your result will be a negative, which means you will have to repeat the entire group once again. आपको चारों के चारों पेपर फिर से देने पड़ेंगे, because though you have individually passed in each paper, but as an aggregate you have not scored 50%, you've scored 45%. This I'm saying is a situation when you give both the groups separately. But now let us imagine a scenario like our students who give both the groups together. Okay, आप आठों के आठों paper prepare properly करके आप दोनों groups साथ में देते हैं. Then what happens? Now in such a case, let's check both the rules again for all 8 papers together. Now, paper 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Have you scored a minimum of 40 in each paper? Yes, you have. What about the aggregate of 50%? Now, for the aggregate of 50%, you don't need to check group wise because you have given all 8 papers together. You have to check in totality. Okay, you don't have to check group wise because you've given all 8 papers together. You have to check in totality. So if I total up all the 8 papers score, 240 plus 180 is 420. Out of 800 is 52.5%. So as an aggregate, you have scored more than 50%. Your result will be considered to be a pass. So you know what has happened? You have scored exceptionally well in group one, 60%. You've scored less in group two, 45. But your high score in group one helps you make up or set off against the group two. And as an aggregate, you score 52.5%, which is considered to be a pass. So the ICI will say that this is an absolute pass result. Okay, so this is the advantage of giving both the groups together. When you have given both the groups together, less marks in one and high marks in the other helps you set off. Now, this advantage would not have been there had you given both the groups separately. आपने एक attempt में group one दिया होता और दूसरे attempt में group two दिया होता. Group one would have been passed, group two would have been failed. But since you've given all 8 papers together in the same attempt, like I said, as an aggregate, you've scored 52.5, you will be considered to be passed. And that is why it is absolute insistence to all CA students that you must appear for all 8 papers so that you have the benefit of a set off which is available. Okay. One more very important thing that you need to know in case you need to give a group altogether once again. Okay. But if you have scored 60 marks or more in a particular paper, you are exempted from that paper. You don't need to appear for that paper again. That's the interesting part about the ICI results. Okay. I repeat, if you have scored, if you, let's say, for some reason, need to give a group again, a set of papers again, but if you have scored 60 marks or more in a particular paper, that paper is exempted. वो आपको फिर से वापस नहीं देना है. Okay, एक दूसरा situation देखते हैं. Look at another situation like this. Accounts you've scored 60, corporate law 60, costing 60, taxes 60, advance account 50, audit 30, less than 40. Okay, EI is 50 and economics 40. Okay, and as an aggregate, you've scored 410 out of 800. That's 51.25%. Now here, you haven't met the first condition of a minimum of 40 in each subject. While you've scored 60, 60, 60, 60 in group one, and that's passed. But in group two, you have scored 30 marks in audit. So though you have passed in aggregate 51.25%, though you're more than 50% in aggregate, but since you didn't meet the first condition, you will have to give the entire group two again. Group one फिर से देने की जरूरत नहीं है because वो पूरा 60 आप है. आपको पूरा जो group two है because of audit, because of that one paper that you scored below 40, आपको वो पूरा group फिर से वापस देना पड़ेगा. Is that okay? That's the way the institute's rules for passing protocols work. Okay. Now, if this is clear, moving ahead, because you have to do 8 papers, within 8 papers, there are so many subjects. Obviously, the coaching is humongous. It's very, very huge. And hence, it's very important that we start on time. It's very important that we end on time so that you have self-study. It's very important that we keep up to a particular pace. It's very, very important that we regularly test you so that there is a regime back at home when you're studying for yourselves. And it's going to be one of a journey. Okay. So if you look at the coaching hours all put together, it's at least 1100 hours. This is a minimum I'm saying of coaching time within the classroom. Your self-study time is absolutely over and above this. And compare this with your CA foundation hours, which were about 450. So like I said, it's not double if it's actually more than double the time and more than double the effort that you need to really put in. Okay. So how do we begin? Hence, we begin early. We begin batches on 27th of December, which is way before your result. Your results are actually declared in Jan end. Okay. So we would have actually completed syllabus for at least a month from 27 December to, let's say, in mid-Jan or last week of Jan, whenever your results are declared. Okay. But we have to begin early. So you have to take a punt. Even if you are 50% sure that you're going to make it, you must start on time. Very, very important. You know, I have a lot of students who come back and say, I'm not certain, I'm not sure whether I'm going to pass the exam. It's okay. Nobody's certain, nobody's sure. Sit for the batch. Worst case, what will happen? Worst case, you'll get a negative result in CA Foundation and you'll stop the course. But that 1 month of learning that you have had will never go waste. It's going to be of use someday or the other. So my recommendation to students would be that please trust yourself and sit for the course. Worst case, the best case, if you pass, there's no looking back. But worst case, what happens if you fail? You get your entire, sum refunded back. That's okay. That's the money part of it. But from a time and an experience perspective, you've still learned something for 1 month productively. And suppose if you don't sit for class and you pass, what happens? Then commencing coaching in Jan is very, very late. All the other students in the class and generally outside also are at least 1 month ahead of you, which is very difficult to cope up. So please begin coaching on time is my sincere request to all of you. The batch typically ends on roughly first week of August. So a very tentative date is 10th August. Okay. So December to 10th August we typically coach you after your college time, which is usually 12 p.m. onwards. Most of you all that time are between your first year BCom and your second year BCom. And once we finish the coaching, August, September, October is your time to go back, study, self-study, do a lot of progress tests, do a lot of mock prelims. And of course, November, you hit your exam. Okay, so that's the broad way in which it flows. Of course, in vacation time, etc., sometimes we may do morning classes if students don't have college. Again, if it's agreed by all. Rest it's after 12 o'clock, and all classes are physically done within the campus. You have to come to the classroom for the classes. A very few sessions for revision or doubt solving, or if there's an exceptional case like rains and we don't want to miss class, only then we do online. But otherwise, all the sessions are absolutely in the classroom. Okay. This is the tentative list of faculties that coach you for CA Inter. This is the team. So you can, quickly note for yourself, the various stalwarts that will be shaping your journey. Okay, this is the current and tentative list of team members that will deliver for CA Inter. Okay, moving ahead. Now, certain very interesting things that we have in your course, because we want you to make it in the first go as much as is possible. So apart from coaching all 8 papers, and we don't think group wise when we coach you for all 8 papers. Then in the end, whether you decide to give one group or two groups is totally your decision, which you will make in consensus with us. But we will coach you 100% for all papers. We will give you all the content that's needed to pass. The content has been made after a lot of research, and it includes a lot of things. The modules have been seen, past papers have been seen, institute's revision test papers have been seen, institute does a lot of mock exams that has been seen. So very scientifically, we've picked up a lot of variety of questions, a lot of variety of content, and put it into our own textbooks to ensure that you leave as much as possible the research to us. So you don't need to do it. Okay. So that's there. And while all of this is being delivered in the classrooms, we make it a point to video record these classes and we give it to you on a separate learning management system, which is called the Pinnacle eCampus app. The advantage of this, as most of you know, is that you can go back and revise. You can, so for some reason you've not understood a concept in class, you can go back and watch it. It stays with you right till your last paper, which means in your study break of 3 months and through your exam, you want to quickly go back and see what was done in class. You can go back to that particular video, play it for yourself. So it's a very, very handy tool that we give our students, and it's been very helpful in preparing for C exams. Other than that, Pinnacle Campus app, as you know, has got a lot of other things that make your journey productive. So apart from having a lot of administrative things like your test schedules, your lecture schedules, your test papers, we also put in a lot of resources, which is the past experience of students and the organization that helps you clear. So for example, we have a lot of blogs for every subject prepared that tells you how to deal with the subject. We have blogs prepared for how to study yourself in the 3 month study period that you have. How do you span your work? What to do one day before the exam? What to do on the morning of the exam? How to cope up with stress and anxiety when you're doing C exams, right? What happens if there is a blank out in the exam? A lot of students have this problem, right? You blank out. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with unknown questions in the exam? What is the expectation of the examiners when he's correcting your test papers? Maybe some of our past students have scored a rank. What is it that they did differently? Maybe somebody has not made it in the first attempt. What mistakes did he make? So we have so many articles, so many blogs written from time to time, and they're all shared systematically with you because we feel you learn a lot from the others, you learn a lot from seniors, and you get a lot of perspective, which is very important when you hit the exam. So all of this is beautifully packaged in the eCampus app that we have. Other than that, we do a lot of tests for you. I think testing is very, very important because testing teaches you some very core skills that you don't learn necessarily in classrooms. It teaches you to deal with speed. It teaches you how to have the right strategy when you hit the exam. It teaches you application. It teaches you how to deal with unknown questions. You learn to manage stress and anxiety. You get those blankouts and panic attacks in the class. so that you're so strong and it doesn't happen in the exam room, right? So, and of course, tests give you a very systematic and a very disciplined plan of studying together with the class, so that when the classes are over in August, even you have seen the entire syllabus at least once. So that when you go on your study break, you're just fine tuning and refreshing and not studying for the first time. So we put a lot of emphasis on tests, especially I'm saying in CA Inter. So there will be at least 3 to 4 tests a month, which means you're on an average writing at least one test per week. While the tutors continue to do a lot of informal tests in the class. And once you've written these many tests through the year, in the end, you will do a mock exam, a proper 8 paper prelim, prepared exactly the way ICI does it, and then you're ready to hit the exam, right? Needless to say, other than that, we do a lot of boot camps for discussing past papers, revision test papers, amendments. And throughout this whole journey of yours, there will constantly be counseling and mentorship support, especially for myself. Okay. I will make it a point to meet the students very regularly. My team members and my colleagues will also engage with students regularly, because we feel that one is what's done in the class, but two is very important to meet you outside the class to know what's happening. How are you coping up? Are you okay? Are you holding up fine? Do you have a plan in place to go home and read and revise? Are you able to deal with the stress? Are there parts of the syllabus you're not able to understand? What kind of help do you need? All of that is very well taken care, right? So we want to make this entire experience for you as systematic and as seamless as is possible, and that's going to be our endeavor. Okay, so I've already stressed on tests. I've already explained to you why it's important to begin in December. Like I said, there are three eventualities. Either if you begin in December, you're really de-risking yourself. You're starting well in time. When you hit Jan, mid-Jan, if you clear it, you're well in time. Go ahead. No, nothing to look back. If you don't clear it, you haven't wasted anything. It's just 1 month productively utilized. It'll never go a waste. And then in an event you don't start the class, you wait for your result and then you clear. Trust me, it's going to be so difficult because you don't know when to make that 1 month up. Not here, but anywhere else for that matter. It's because every student is at least a month ahead in your journey. So my students, I have a sincere request to you that trust yourself, unless you are your exams, you've missed the exam or it's been absolutely horrible experience. Even if you're 50% there, trust yourself and please start on time. That's very, very important. Okay. How many groups to prepare? Like I told you, you're not even thinking at this stage one group, two groups. We're absolutely preparing you for both groups. Whether you want to give one group or both groups is a call we'll take at the fag end, maybe in July, August when we finish the syllabus. But absolutely, coaching is for both the groups, right? All other administrative details with respect to fees, etc., is available at the center. Please contact the center. They will share all the details with you. We've opened up the admissions and we're looking forward to giving you a very, very wholesome experience, right? And on that note, I'd just like to end, however difficult the journey be, however, uh, you know, uh, uh, however rigorous it be, it's going to be one family which is going to dream together and make it together, right? So I look forward to having all of you. Here's the contact details. If you have any queries, you need to counsel, you need to take admissions, please take note of this number, contact them, and my team will be absolutely available for all support. Okay. So thank you, and I look forward to the experience.